99% of people who end up wealthy never had a single big moment. They didn't win a lottery. They didn't launch a billion-dollar startup. They never woke up to a notification saying, "Congratulations, you made it." In fact, if you saw them right now, they'd look completely unimpressive. You check your banking app at a red light. Balance: $2,340. You already knew it would be roughly that. You don't feel richer than last month. You don't feel poorer. The number just sits there, the way it always sits there, and you put the phone down, and drive home, and make dinner, and go to sleep. Nothing happened today. This is what almost every day of building wealth actually feels like. Not a moment. Not a milestone, just a number that didn't move enough to notice, followed by another day exactly like it. This is the part no one prepares you for. You expect wealth to announce itself. You expect a threshold, a bell, a morning where you wake up and something is different. It never comes. What comes instead is a slope so gradual that your nervous system, which is built to detect sudden danger, simply stops registering it. You are wired to notice a lion in the grass. You are not wired to sense 0.6% monthly growth building quietly in an index fund. The lion kills you in seconds. The growth takes decades. Your brain was never built for the timescale wealth actually moves on, so it doesn't ring an alarm. It doesn't ring anything at all. There's a related quirk working against you too. Hedonic adaptation. The tendency to recalibrate your sense of normal every time your circumstances improve. A raise feels enormous for about 6 weeks, and then becomes the new baseline you no longer notice. The upgrade gets absorbed into your identity so quickly that you stop crediting it as an upgrade at all. It just becomes the floor you now stand on, and floors, by definition, don't feel like progress. Year 1. A retirement account opens because someone at work told you to, or because a form was already filled out and you didn't opt out. $140 comes out of every paycheck. You never see it. It never touches your checking account, never shows up as a number you have to consciously give away. By December, there's $3,600 in an account you've logged into exactly twice. You feel nothing about this money because you never held it. It skipped the part of your brain that assigns ownership through touch. It is real. It is yours. It does not feel like anything. By year 3, the account holds $14,000. Some of that from contributions, some of it from growth. You didn't do anything to earn. You check it occasionally, mostly out of mild curiosity, the way you'd check the weather in a city you don't live in. The number is larger than it was, but larger by an amount too small to trigger anything emotional. $14,000 sounds like a lot and feels like nothing, because you experienced it as 100 slow Tuesdays instead of one dramatic Thursday. If someone had handed you $14,000 in cash at once, you would remember the day. Because it arrived in invisible fragments, you remember none of them. Here is the mechanism working underneath all of this, and it's worth naming precisely. Human beings evaluate their financial situation through comparison, not through absolute numbers. You compare this month to last month. You compare your car to your neighbor's car. You compare your progress to your own expectations of where you should be by now. None of these comparisons are built to detect compounding, because compounding is not a monthly event. It is a decade-long event that happens to deposit small monthly evidence. You are grading a test that hasn't finished being written, using only the first few answers, and concluding the whole thing looks unremarkable. Year 5 brings a house, or maybe it doesn't. But quietly, beneath the surface, something else shifts. Your debt-to-income ratio improves. Your credit score climbs into a range you didn't know existed, and the interest rate you're offered on things is meaningfully lower than the rate offered to the version of you 5 years ago. Nobody tells you this happened. There's no notification that says you have become a lower risk borrower. You just apply for something and it goes more smoothly than you expected. And you attribute that to luck, or to the specific bank, or to nothing at all. You do not attribute it to the fact that you have been quietly building a financial profile for 5 years, while telling yourself you were not really a savings person. The 8th year puts the retirement account at $60,000. A third of that, roughly, is money you contributed. 2/3 of it is money the market generated on top of what you contributed. Money that exists because you left the first money alone long enough for it to start making more of itself. This is the part of compounding that is genuinely strange to sit with. Past a certain point, your money is earning more than you are. Not in a headline sense, in an arithmetic sense. And you still don't feel rich, because $60,000 sitting in an account you can't touch doesn't spend like $60. 0. It doesn't buy a car. It doesn't take a vacation. It sits there being real and being useless to your day-to-day life in equal measure, which is exactly why it never registers as wealth. Wealth to most people means money I can feel the effect of right now. This money refuses to be felt. It only agrees to be counted. There's a second mechanism running alongside the first one, and it's less about math and more about identity. You built an idea of yourself early, maybe in your 20s, maybe earlier, about what kind of relationship you have with money. I'm not good with money. I'll never really get ahead. People like me don't end up wealthy. That belief formed under conditions that may no longer exist, but beliefs don't update automatically just because the facts underneath them have changed. You can have a genuinely strong net worth and still narrate your life using a script written when you had $400 to your name, because the script was never rewritten. It was just never proven wrong loudly enough to force a rewrite. Quiet growth doesn't argue with your self-image. It just accumulates next to it, unacknowledged, like a roommate you've stopped noticing is even in the apartment. Social comparison makes the identity harder to update, not easier. You scroll past someone's new car, someone's vacation photos, someone's kitchen renovation, and each one resets your internal baseline for what doing well looks like. You are never comparing yourself to the version of you from a decade ago, the one with $400 and no plan. You are comparing yourself to the loudest, most visible financial moment in your feed that morning, and against that, quiet accumulation always loses, because quiet accumulation was never trying to be seen. Someone asks at a dinner around year 12 what your net worth is, half joking. The kind of question people ask when they've had 2 drinks. You do the math in your head for the first time in a long time. The retirement account. The modest brokerage account you started almost by accident. The equity in the house. And the number surprises you. Not because it's enormous, but because it's more than you would have guessed if you'd been asked to estimate it blind. You underestimated your own life. A promotion arrives around year 16, along with the temptation that comes with it. A bigger apartment, a nicer car. You resist most of it out of habit. The accounts have been running on autopilot for so long that increasing the contribution percentage feels more natural than not. This is the year the math starts doing something that would look dramatic if you graphed it. The growth from the money itself starts to outpace what you're personally adding, month over month, for the first time. You didn't do anything differently. The pile just got large enough to start generating its own weather by year 20. You are, by most standard measures, comfortable. The accounts have compounded through market drops you don't remember being afraid of, through raises you spent without thinking, through a decade where the balance simply kept doing what balances do when you don't interrupt them. If you plotted the graph, it wouldn't look like a straight line. It would look flat for a long stretch. And then, almost abruptly, curve upward exponential curves look like nothing is happening right up until the point where a lot is happening. That point always arrives later than intuition expects, usually well after most people have already decided the whole thing wasn't working and quietly stopped watching. There's a version of this story where someone warns you early, a parent, a teacher, a mentor who sits you down and says, "It will feel like nothing is happening for a very long time, and that feeling is not information, it's just the shape compounding takes when you're inside it." Almost nobody gets that conversation. Instead, you get warnings about debt, about spending too much, about the dangers of losing money, because loss is vivid and easy to picture. Nobody warns you about the opposite problem, gaining money so slowly that you mistake the process for failure and quit right before the part that would have proven you right. Somewhere around year 22, a friend going through a divorce asks you almost in passing how you manage to build what you have. You start to answer and realize there isn't really an answer. There was no strategy meeting, no single decision that mattered more than the others. There was just 22 years of not stopping. You tell them that, and they look unsatisfied, because it isn't the kind of answer that fits in a conversation. It's the kind of answer that only makes sense from far enough away to see the whole shape of it. Most people quit checking the graph exactly at the flat part. They never see the bend, because the bend requires more patience than the flat part rewards. And the flat part is where all the doubt lives. This is the actual answer to why average people never notice they're getting rich. The getting rich part was never designed to be noticeable. It has no ceremony, no threshold crossing, no single Tuesday where the app shows a different color. It's hidden by scale. It happens too slowly for the instruments you use to evaluate your own life mood, comparison, memory, identity to catch it. You would need to check your net worth once a decade, not once a week, to actually feel the shape of what's happening. The people who do end up wealthy, without ever feeling like they crossed a line, are simply the ones who stopped requiring proof, month to month, that the process was working, and kept feeding it anyway. You check your banking app at a red light. Balance, $214,000, spread across 3 accounts you rarely think about. You already knew it would be roughly that. You don't feel richer than last month. You don't feel poorer. The number just sits there, the way it always sits there, and you put the phone down and drive home and make dinner and go to sleep. Nothing happened today. Nothing happened yesterday, either. Nothing happened on almost any day across the last 20 years. And that, precisely that, unremarkable day after unremarkable day, building quietly under a life that never once felt like it was changing, is what getting rich actually looks like while it's happening to you. If you made it this far, you already understand something most people never will, that the boring, invisible, unremarkable days are the whole strategy. There's no highlight reel for this. No one posts a screenshot of a Tuesday where nothing happened, but that Tuesday is the entire mechanism. If this video helped you see your own quiet progress differently, don't just scroll past it. Subscribe to this channel, because this is exactly the kind of story we tell here, the real, unfiltered psychology of money, the parts no one else is willing to explain. New stories like this one are coming, and you don't want to miss the next one. Subscribe now, stay for the next story, and let's keep building quietly, patiently, and for real.